You could smell it for days. We could smell it.
I hate breathing the air. Is it okay? They say it's okay. How can you say that's okay? You see that plume of smoke?
The dark cloud over East Palestine, Ohio is synonymous with man-made disaster in the year 2023. The incident in early February sent tens of thousands of gallons of hazardous waste into the small community near the Pennsylvania border. Authorities decided to burn off some toxic chemicals, creating that ominous black plume in the air.
Well, I've lived here 30 years, but I'm getting out of Dodge.
In the weeks after the derailment, residents spoke of health issues and financial concerns. Others talked about accountability.
I want assurance that it's being taken seriously, that, folks are being heard.
Multiple school districts are suing the rail company, Norfolk Southern, for negligence.
Hey, Mark. That looks pretty good. Yeah, I don't think the light behind you is too bad, to be honest.
While Scripps News senior national investigative correspondent Mark Greenblatt uncovered concerning bonuses for some company leaders.
When did you know that you had a story?
I think where the story really came together was in looking at these very obscure SEC records that showed that the executives, the people that run Norfolk Southern, were incentivized with large cash awards for things like making their trains longer and getting them to a place where they had a record amount of heft and heaviness.
Greenblatt's reporting showed 5 executives received a 7-figure bonus.
I've been an investigative reporter for 25 years now, and I can tell you that my mouth dropped when I saw what the company was saying in its disclosures to the SEC. This was a clear-cut example of a company that was putting on full display its culture, what drives its behavior, and what drives the awards that it will give its executives for hitting certain targets.
They've gotten a hell of a lot of criticism, much of it well-deserved, but they deserve some credit for this.
Representative Seth Moulton of Massachusetts is talking about important changes at Norfolk Southern, the embattled owner of the train that derailed in February in East Palestine, Ohio. The railroad just disclosed a total overhaul of what can trigger millions of dollars in cash awards for its executives.
Senator, I'm committed to do what's right.
It's a major shift in corporate strategy that comes after an exclusive series of Scripps News investigative reports that exposed how the company paid out millions of dollars in cash to executives for taking cost-cutting actions that critics say made trains longer and more dangerous. What our Scripps News reporting revealed outraged members of Congress like Moulton, who in early March promised to push for change.
This is a great credit to you and your investigation that we know about this now, and we're going to be zeroing in on this much more closely.
At the time, Senator J.D. Vance piled on the pressure.
And instead of paying, massive bonuses to railway CEOs, I think we should be asking some tough questions about why we lag behind the rest of the world when it comes to safety.
They have cut costs in every conceivable way on safety.
After seeing our report, Senator Jeff Merkley took action and formally wrote Norfolk Southern demanding to know whether the railroad was going to make changes and start directly incentivizing its leaders to make the railroad safer. Norfolk Southern told Scripps News through a spokesperson, the compensation of our entire management team will now be based in part on performance on related safety metrics, saying we will continue working to get better. The company's recent Securities and Exchange Commission filing shows new triggers for cash awards. They now include injury rates, accident rates, and even on-time performance. And in what the company calls its new strategy, Norfolk Southern changed course on what had been the biggest driver of cash awards, a controversial financial target known on Wall Street as the operating ratio, which put a premium on squeezing costs and increasing revenues. Critics say it prioritized cost-cutting over safety. The company dropped it entirely.
Operating ratio is gone from the cash incentives.
The disappearance of operating ratio from the bonus criteria for Norfolk Southern executives is a major accomplishment.
Steve Dittmeyer is the Federal Railroad Administration's former director of research. He spoke out in our first reports about how the old focus on that controversial Wall Street metric encouraged an emphasis on longer trains, leading to bigger pileups.
Norfolk Southern obviously felt pressure from Congress, from the news stories that Scripps put out on this matter, and I think Alan Shaw and the board decided that this shift had to be made.
Norfolk Southern's new incentive structure for executives ties 10% of its cash awards directly to safety.
I think that's, on one hand, wonderful, but they are still fairly small percentages of the bonus package.
Congressman Moulton says Norfolk Southern's new willingness to tie safety performance to cash awards for its leadership is long overdue.
I think it will make a difference in safety. I think Norfolk Southern is demonstrating some real leadership here, and I hope other major railroads follow their lead.
I know going through those financial records, 95% of the time it can be incredibly boring. How important is that in the grand scheme of eventually Congress getting involved and forcing this company to do something to make some real change?
99% of the job of an investigative reporter is super boring stuff. It's just going through the weeds, the details, spending a lot of time reading things that nobody's ever going to read. And, this is the case with this story, in that, the regulatory disclosure that I was looking at was something like 70 pages long, filled with just all kinds of stuff that would really bore a lot of people to tears, until you get to the cash awards and you understand what exactly they were amping up in order to give themselves, a pretty big payday.
The race continues next.